Hello, welcome to Rants Not Over. Today I want to talk about surviving a narcissist, and like I said in my last video, whether you are a victim or a family member of the victim, I'm going to give some keys into helping process through this. On this video, I'm going to give the victim more so keys on processing through this and getting out of this relationship. But if you know someone who is going through something, this will be a good video to send them, and that's how you can support them as a loved one. A lot of times we will judge our family members for staying in a relationship that we know is abusive, or we have our family that will judge us for staying in these situations that are abusive. And some people will even claim that we like it, or we're stupid, or we're just, well, I'm not gonna help the person because they're gonna keep going back anyways. Yes, most of the times they do. Think of this person who is going through this abusive relationship as a family member who is on drugs. I am not saying in no way that this person is on drugs. I myself was in an abusive relationship, and I cannot say that I completely relate to someone who is on drugs, but I felt like I was on drugs. I went through withdrawals. I went through all of that when I separated from this person. I went through withdrawals throughout the whole time of being with this person, and I will get to that. So the reason I compare the two is because this person does become an essential part in this person's life, almost essential, not really an important essential, but they do become an essential part in your life. They will begin with love bombing you and giving you everything that you've ever wanted. You probably came from whether you came from an abusive past, childhood, you could have came from a good childhood, you were just extremely sheltered. You could have came from a good childhood and you just, when you got older, you dated people that cheated on you or they abandoned you. They did so many different things to you. And this person comes in looking like a knight in shining armor, or a knight on a white horse, coming to save you and give you everything that you've ever dreamed of. So this person plays on things that you've went through, and a lot of times we don't realize that we give people too much information about our lives, and it could start off where they're getting to know us and we don't give them the information right off the bat. It could be a year, it could be a long time where this person plays their part until they get you right where they want you, and they will love bomb you until they know that they have you where they want you, and then they start to separate you from your family, or they have put on this show for your family, and so your family doesn't know who the true person is. They're not going to show their true colors in front of your family, and if they do, they've kind of separated you from your family because they know that your family is going to defend you or speak against what they're doing, and they don't want your family members to get in your head and help you see them for who they truly are. So after this person has love bombed you, when they have you where they want you, that's when they begin to use their little tactics. They will find any reason to argue with you. It could be the smallest things that you don't think are worth arguing over, but to them it is. You could have simply just said good morning to this person and they go off on you, and you're like, what the heck? And they abandon you, or they do something that they know you've had done to you in the past, but they don't do it right off the bat. And that's the thing that you have to pay attention to. They progress over time in what they do to you. At first, it's just small arguments. And these arguments are frustrating because this person is very hurtful. But you realize, okay, he's not cheating on me like the last person did. And this is just an argument. Now, he apologized. He's back to love bombing you and you feel good. He does this over and over again until you do. Most times some men get tired of it and they speak up about it and say, hey, if you don't get this together, I'm going to move around. So they pretend that they're going to get themselves together. They will play the role for so long that you'll think that they really have changed, and they'll act like they changed, and maybe they will change their method, but they'll try another method. And by this time, they have you wrapped around their finger more than you know. You already are trauma bond because, once again, they know that you have been in relationships where you've been cheated on, or people have mistreated you in a certain way and they're not doing those same things, or this person doesn't abandon you, they won't leave you, and you're used to people leaving you or abandoning you. They won't do that, not right off the bat. So then they start to do things like, okay, you went through abandonment and they'll leave, but they'll come back. So they never really leave you, they just punish you by leaving, and then they come back and they'll even apologize as if they believe that they're wrong, or they'll give you an ultimatum and make you feel like you did something wrong when you really didn't. And because they have you so wrapped around their finger, you really will believe that you're doing wrong. These tactics that they use doesn't take a year to get into your head. It doesn't take that long. This could take as little as 3 months for them to have you wrapped around their finger, because they are the ultimate biggest manipulator. That is what narcissists do. And they know what they're doing. They are predators. They're very skilled at this. And this is not to give them an accomplishment. This is just to point out how skilled these people are. And don't underestimate that you cannot be one of the people who to be victimized by this. So that maybe it's years down the line, they've continuously did all these things and you've held on to them and kept them, and eventually they start to do other things, but you have a fear of losing them. And when they're gone, you go through what I would consider withdrawals. These are times where you just feel like you are in such a dark place. You are crying your eyes out. You have a hard time functioning emotionally in life. You might lose a job. You might stop working on your goals. Let's say if you own a business, your business might go downhill because this person has you in such an emotional state. And you stay in this emotional state until they come back to you and apologize, or they come back to you and give you an ultimatum and make you feel better and give you back that love bombing. And they'll do this over and over and over again until you realize that they're really not going to change. They will even go as far as making efforts to look like they're changing, like by going and getting advice from people and coming to you, or having a person come inside of your marriage, like a friend of theirs, a guy friend of theirs, that'll acknowledge that they are wrong, and you will all sit in a group or sit down and have this conversation, and they will act like they are hearing this advice from this person, or they'll get your family member, or they'll go to someone in your church or whatever. They will find someone either close to you or close to them that you know that is involved in y'all's lives, someone that you know that they look up to. It's always going to be some trick with them, and they will act like, okay, they're taking the advice from this person, that they're going to listen to it and they're going to do different. They'll do this over and over because half the time, once again, you're already wrapped around this person's finger. When you have the trauma bond, it's as if the good times are so good. They are the best. You're on top of the world and you feel happy. And then when the downs are down, you are really low. You have a hard time functioning. You probably have not even accomplished things that you needed to because you've been so focused and tirelessly on keeping up with this person. You feel damned if you do or don't. A part of you deep down knows that this person is not going to change, and yet some way you still choose to be there because you have such a hard time letting them go. Whether you're afraid that you'll get treated worse, whether you're afraid that you don't deserve better than that, whether you are afraid that they'll go and get with someone else and do better by them, it'll make you feel less of something yourself. You're afraid that you've done all this work with this person and they go and do better with someone else. If you leave and you step away, and it'll make you feel crappy about yourself, or it'll make you feel sad inside. It'll affect you majorly. For so many years in my marriage, that was a factor for me. This was a person that I had dealt with, men that had cheated on me before. I didn't have the best childhood, and so this person never left me, and everybody I had ever known had abandoned me, especially in my times of need. And so I'm sitting here thinking that this person was really there for me, and not realizing that they weren't there for me, that everything for this person was to benefit them. And it was just, they would give the love bombing, all of that, all of the good times were not real. And I had to realize that. It took me years, But I had to realize that I even beat myself up for not understanding why I kept going back to this person. And I found ways and excuses of why I went back to this person, why I couldn't leave this person. And my fear of going out there and meeting new people, and the possibility that there was something better out there for me than this, that there was a possibility that I deserved better than what I was going through, because all my life, all I had experienced was heartache, and this person just would never leave me. No matter the arguments that we got into, he would never leave me. And in the beginning, he never cheated on me, and I dealt with so many cheating men. So I thought of him as, okay, well, at least he ain't cheating on me, and he's not abandoning me. I knew that this person would never leave me. He would never go away, you know. And at the time, that was good enough for me. Then I started leaving because I was like, you know, I started getting tired of things. I started wanting change. And there was one time I left, and I was gone for like 6 months. We were separated for a whole 6 months, and this person played his part so well, you know. And so this was back in 2017 when that happened. And then by 2018, we had got back together. Like I said, this person had played his part. He seemed that he had changed, and, you know, making him wait that 6 months, you would think that making someone wait 6 months, that they really have changed. Slowly, he started going back to doing some of the things that he was doing. It was just little by little. And I ended up in 2018 being pregnant, or finding out the beginning of 2018 that I was pregnant with our son. And things just started going downhill. I'm not going to get too much into this story right here, right now, but when things started going downhill, I was pregnant, and yeah, he just was worrisome. He was never at any of the appointments. He would take off of work to hang out with his guy friend, but he would never take off work to go to doctor's offices with me. He didn't even know I was high risk. So, you know, it was no point in me telling him so many things, because it didn't seem like he really cared. Or if I spoke to him, I was so cautious of speaking to him because I thought that it would be an argument. So I would wait for him to speak to me mostly. I felt like half the time I was damned if I did or didn't. So here we are in 2018. I'm having my baby. He was there, of course, for the birth. And then after that, I was working, and I had to go back to work because he stopped working. He was claiming that he was going through some mental health issue while I was going through postpartum depression. And, you know, he was doing this thing where I was getting up with a baby every other hour. He did not get up once for our son. He did not really take care of our son. He did not pay our son much mind at all for the whole time, majority of the time that I was there. And so eventually I had, you know, I had our son in August, towards the end of the year. In January of 2019, I left again because it was just chaotic. It got back chaotic, and it was so much going on that I didn't want the kids around. Unfortunately, this place was like such a short-lived place. And then I found myself around the summertime leaving again that same year, in 2019. And then after that, I stayed with a church family member for like 3 months trying to find another apartment, and I couldn't find another apartment. So I ended up going back because I had like a limited time with that church family member. And so going back and not finding an apartment, I do realize that, let's say that I did get the apartment, I do believe that I would have been dumb enough to let him be at that apartment. I'm not saying that it is a dumb decision now. I realize it wasn't dumb, but I just wasn't in the mindset that I am in now, where I realize that this person means me no well, and they never will mean me well. That if I continue to stay with this person, I would never be happy, and we all deserve happiness. So I went back with him. It was the same old stuff. He didn't care that there was kids around when he would argue. He didn't care about the words that came out of his mouth. He didn't even care if what he did, what he said, affected our son. Like, our son would cry when he would start arguing. I would be arguing with him, and then I would stop because I'm like, hey, he's crying. He would continue going on, and I couldn't grab our son because the time that I did, there was a time I did grab him, he snatched him from me. And so I had to let my son sit there and cry. And it was those moments and those times that made me realize I need to get out of here, because my kids don't deserve this, you know? So even if you don't have kids, know that you don't deserve this. So then here I am in 2020, where, you know, I'm going through this state of mind of plotting to leave anyways when the lease is up the end of the year. Because like I said, a lot of this stuff was 2019, and it was towards the end of 2019. So my lease wouldn't have been up until October. And like I said, towards the end of the year. So we're in the beginning of 2020. The pandemic happens around February, March, and we're going through so many situations, and I ended up just getting to a point where I stayed off to myself. I moved to a completely different room and away from him, a completely different room, and he still managed to find ways to argue. Like, he would sit there and argue by himself, just yap, and for hours. I would not respond because I was like, I don't even have the energy for this. Around this time, I remember my chest was so heavy, and I mean, like, I felt like somebody had put bricks on my chest. And you would think that around this time that I didn't even know too much about COVID around the time, but I did have sinus issues and everything, but it wasn't associated with this. This type of pain was like, it wasn't pain. It was like, it was slight pain because I had like sharp pains. Sometimes it was going down my arm, but it felt like somebody had put bricks on my chest, and it was just heavy and like sore within this area. It's hard to really describe, but it was heavy. Like I could breathe, but it was just like bricks were on my chest. So, I'm going through these situations and thinking that I could sit under this roof with this person and keep peace. Because in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to wait it out until October. I ended up not being able to do so. Around June 8th, we got into an argument June 8th, and I finally left. And man, that argument was quite crazy because, it was one of those days where, like I said, I had been ignoring him up until this moment. He just was arguing by himself. But this day that's how narcissists work. They'll find like something to trigger you so that you argue back with them, so that you're affected. If they can't affect you, it's a problem, but they're going to find a way to trigger you. And he had said all the things he had said before, and he realized it didn't trigger me. So here he has to try something new. And so he pulls the little trigger, and I get frustrated. He wins, and I get frustrated with him and begin to argue with him. This is exactly what he wanted. And he didn't really like my response. He never really liked my response of defending myself. So I was standing in the kitchen, and he walks towards me, and he gives me this face that I remember back in 2017 when he choked me. And I had told him I didn't want to be with him, and he reaches over and chokes me. And so he had that same face. So I grab a knife, and he grabs the knife and tries to make me stab him. So I end up throwing the knife, and I run out the door, and I'm like, you know what? Forget this. Thankfully, my son was at daycare at the time, and my daughter was playing with her friend at the time. Again, this was in June, so it was summertime. No kids are at school. And my son was only in the daycare because I had stuff to take care of that day. And again, my daughter was a little bit older, and she had a friend, and I had got close with the mother of the friend at the apartment, so she was over there with them at the time. And I run over there to her, call the cops, and also call the shelter that at first they were not taking anybody in because it was in the middle of a pandemic and they were scared to take people in, or they weren't taking too many people in for it being a risk of you being a newcomer takes a risk of bringing COVID in. So long story short with that, I ended up being able to stay in the shelter. I prayed because they didn't have any space, and I prayed, and they called back and told me that they would take me in, and I was just so happy. Like, y'all don't even understand. I was like, God, look, I ain't coming back after this. I promise. Like, I'm not gonna be stupid. And it wasn't that I had fully stopped loving, my husband at the time. It wasn't that a part of me didn't want to be with him. A part of me didn't still think in my mind that maybe this could work out if I stayed gone a little longer. I thought in my mind at first, like, I'll just stay gone a little longer and see if he'll change. I didn't have that mindset right off the bat that I was just going to leave him alone, but I knew that I couldn't live under the same roof with him. I knew that I was going to make the decision to not live under the same roof with him, and that we would go through this separation where weren't under the same roof, so that if I needed peace, I'd have that peace. And if my kids needed peace, they would have that peace. He goes and picks up our son from the daycare. There's nothing I can do about that, but he goes and drops him off to his mother. And that he always did. He would just take our son and drop him off to his mother. Even though the mother is available, he would drop him off to his mother because he knew how I felt about my kids. He knows how close I am with my kids, and that was the one kid that he could do something about, that he could use to affect me. So like I said, I wasn't right off the bat just like, oh, I'm gonna leave him alone. I was going to still see what could happen until it was like I can't remember if it was in June, towards the end of June or July, at the beginning of July. I was helping him with his car, and I was still staying at the shelter, and I wasn't trying to go back with him, like live with him. But I was helping him with his car, and we get into an argument, and we're sitting in the car, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this no more. Like, I'm damned if I do or don't. What is the point? But it was so many things that I had to process before I really got to where I was at. And even after I made that final decision to leave him alone, in the back of my head, I was like, why am I hurting behind this person? Why am I feeling this way behind this person? I literally had to go no contact. I had to block him on everything and stay blocked. Because sometimes you want to unblock that person. You want to look at their page. You want to see what they're doing. You want to talk to them and see what they're doing. And for the longest, I was afraid that he would get with someone else, and all the work that I had done, he would have done better with someone else, and it would have made me feel some type of way about myself. But towards the end, I was like, you know what? Fine. If that's the case, if he has to be with someone else, that was a risk that I was willing to take for my happiness and for my kids' happiness, because that was so much more important to me. And I was like, even if he does change for someone else, that doesn't mean that me staying here means that he's going to change for me. Like, maybe he's just not going to change for me, and I had to live with that, and I had to have that understanding that there's a possibility this man is not going to change for me, and he might change for someone else. But this person had past relationships where he did the same thing. Chances of a narcissist changing is slim to none, because a person cannot change if they don't know what they are doing is wrong. They're not going to change. So the last point I will make on this video is a point that I hope will help someone who is going through a situation like this. Let me tell you, they're not going to change, and they're not going to do better for someone else. The reason that they're not going to change is because they don't really see their wrong. Even when they apologize and act as if they are remorseful, they do the same thing over and over. They hurt you over and over again. No matter how many times you told them that they are hurting you, they continue to hurt you. They continue to make you cry. You're the one who's sitting there laying in that bed crying your eyes out. You're the one sitting there in pain, and they're getting joy out of it. And they'll sit here and act as if they're remorseful and they really care, and they don't, because they don't think that they are doing wrong to you. They will find ways to justify the pain that they are causing you. And the fact that they will justify that, even if they apologize, they don't believe their apologies. They only apologize to keep you around. You are their drug too. Just as they become your drug, you are their drug. They cannot live without abusing someone because it makes them feel better about themselves. They're never going to change. They're never going to do better for the next person, the next woman or man. Never. You deserve better. And I don't care what that person is telling you, how much they're tearing you down. You deserve better. Keep telling yourself that. Look in that mirror at yourself and tell yourself that you deserve better until you believe it. Daily affirmation: I deserve better. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to live peaceful. I deserve someone who is going to genuinely love me. I deserve healing before I find that person. I will make another video, a part 2 video of this one, because this did kind of go on. But I do want to definitely give some tips, some questions that you can ask yourself to help you out of the mindset that this person will ever change, out of the mindset that this person will do different, and how you yourself can get out of that trauma bond. I'm going to give you tips and tricks on how to break that trauma bond. So please like, subscribe. That way you can, get the tips and tricks that you need.